Даже проговорил, не проговорил. Вот это русское, это когда выйдет в эфир.
С вот этими колокольными. Так, сейчас меня выключили. Voilà, je pense que c'est réglé les problèmes. Est-ce que vous m'entendez? Maïette, est-ce que
Je vous
c'est pas
entends.
branché?
Je vous entends parfaitement bien.
Bonjour Alain.
Bonjour Stéphane, quel plaisir de se retrouver.
Oui, ça fait très plaisir. J'ai reconnu ta voix en fait.
Ah, merci, merci.
Bonjour Stéphane.
Bonjour Muriel.
TASS Information Agency.
Good
afternoon, distinguished friends, dear colleagues. I'm happy to welcome you in our studio, and today we are hosting the International Roundtable National Identity and Cultural Dialogue in Theater Space. I would like to welcome the Artistic Director of the National Drama Theatre of Russia, Valery Fokin. Now I would like to give the floor to the moderator of the round table, the special representative of the President of the Russian Federation for International Cultural Cooperation, Michail Shvydkoi. Thank you. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I would like to extend my gratitude for the opportunity to moderate this highly representative round table. I believe that this very initiative that initially was planned to be held in an offline, face-to-face format was highly fruitful, because today we are talking a lot about experimental theater, about theater language and how it is transforming, about innovations. However, for every specific individual country, the theater is an institution that determines and identifies, as well as formulates, the national cultural code. It is not by chance that in the mid-20th century, a genius German writer, Thomas Mann, said that the theater is the venue where a crowd turns to the people, a nation. So therefore, the question is, to what extent are we following into the words of Thomas Mann and comply to them? This is one of the most important topics for our today's discussion. Another issue is that there are lots of representatives of Central and Eastern Europe. I see also our colleagues from Great Britain, and to them, national identity is also a matter. It matters. I believe that all of you know that to every country, whether it's Germany, the Czech Republic, the Slovak Republic, or other countries that were part of the former Yugoslavia, to every country, establishing a national theater meant being a sovereign state. So, a national theater meant that there is an independent people, an independent nation. Even in France, when the monarchy was established, one of the key personalities and characters in the classical paradigm was Cardinal Richelieu, because all of us know the Three Musketeers book by Alexander Dumas, but actually Cardinal Richelieu was at the very cradle of the French or France as an independent country, and its people, its sovereignty, as well as the national French theater. Theater is also something that embraces language. It is clear that to Moscow and to St Petersburg, a theater is as equal of a phenomenon as a national university. And today, amid our fastly transforming and globalized world, lots of values are being shaped. They are modified. Therefore, it is important to remember our roots, to remember about the very basis, the foundation of where we are. I would like to extend my gratitude to the top management of the Alexandrinsky Theatre and all other participants for the opportunity to invest your time into this round table. Regrettably, I will be able to stay with you for the next 60 minutes only, but I'm going to give the floor to my moderator colleague, Now I would like to give the floor to Valery Fokin, the artistic director of the Alexandrinsky Theatre. Thank you very much, Mr. Shvydkoi. Dear colleagues, I just wanted to elaborate a little bit on the situation and the circumstances we are all living in. Nevertheless, we were able to find the time to see each other, and it's highly relevant and important that we are seeing each other, whether it be face-to-face or online. Today, yes, indeed, we are talking a lot about the national mission of a national theatre, but actually, as Mr. Shvydkoi formulated that, a national theatre is an institution which is a key institution establishing the most landmark moments and turning points in our cultural life. It has got its positive sides as well as drawbacks, but all that creates this versatility, this colorful constellation of different phenomena, and this is how it should be. I would like our colleagues to focus on the following aspects. Today, we are very much concerned about the responsibility of a national theatre today. Today, this is the most crucial word. So what are our responsibilities to be assumed today, at this very moment? Because it is at present that some theatres are unable to explore their full potential due to limitations. Therefore, we have to assume the responsibility of having theatre as a tool. I mean, those who do have some opportunities is opposite to others. So how would all that impact the responsibilities of theatre? And another aspect I would like to tap today is that whatever happens, we are compelled to invest into international cooperation despite all obstacles, limitations. If our audience see that we are cooperating, we are in collaboration, we are open and transparent, then them too, they would also bond together. We must understand that this cultural pathway is still open. Therefore, it is crucial to develop co-products in collaboration together. So those are the key aspects I would like to focus today and to set the tune. Thank you, Mr. Fokin. Well, the very idea of a co-product is in the air. As we know, opera houses over the last 40 years have very positive attitudes towards co-products and co-productions, because this is a great tool to ensure survival. I would like to give the floor to our very well-known colleague and an outstanding Greek director, Theodoros Tersopoulos. He's the personality who develops the traditions of national theaters, as well as the National Olympics, National Theatre Olympics. I would like Mr. Tersopoulos to deliberate on a theater stage set in international contexts. This is highly crucial for the entire second half of the 20th century, and this is assuming ultimate relevance today. Theodoros, please, the floor is yours.
Большое спасибо, Михаил.
Thank you very
Я очень рад
much,
тебя видеть
Michael. I'm very happy to see you after so many years.
Я вижу, что
I see
с тобой
that
все хорошо.
you're doing great.
Вот все-таки греки великие оптимисты. Мне это
Well, the
нравится.
Greek people are optimists. I love that.
Κοίταξε, εγώ δεν υπήρξα ποτέ διευθυντής Εθνικού Θεάτρου. Ωστόσο, διεύθυνα κάποια φεστιβάλ και το κυριότερο ήταν το Φεστιβάλ Αρχαίου Δράματος στους Δελφούς και είμαι και πρόεδρος εδώ και χρόνια της Θεατρικής Ολυμπιάδας και αυτή είναι η εμπειρία μου.
Я никогда не был директором национального театра.
I've never been the director of a national theatre.
Был вовлечен в организацию театральных
only
фестивалей.
merely involved into organizing theatre festivals, and I was president in the Delft Festival,
театральной олимпиады.
and I'm also president of the Theatre Olympics.
Με εθνικά θέατρα. Και στην Ελλάδα και ευρωπαϊκά εθνικά θέατρα, ασιατικά και αμερικάνικα, όλου του κόσμου. Και έχω κάποια εμπειρία.
По всему миру я сотрудничал с национальными театрами и в Азии, и в Америке, и вот в этом мой опыт.
So that's my experience.
Πιστεύω ότι ένα εθνικό θέατρο έχει αναλάβει τον μεγαλύτερο λόγο της θεατρικής εκπαίδευσης του κοινού.
Мне кажется, что роль национального театра в том, что он образовывает публику, воспитывает ее.
Nurtures it, brings up the audience.
Это театр, который получает финансирование, и его ответственность в этом плане очень велика.
Receives financial support, and therefore its responsibility can't be higher.
Διατηρεί την εθνική παράδοση, την θεατρική εθνική παράδοση, γιατί αυτό είναι το έδαφος μέσα στο οποίο πατάνε όλες οι τάσεις και τα νέα πειράματα.
И мне кажется, что в первую очередь национальный театр должен придерживаться национальной театральной традиции, и эксперименты, они должны на ней основываться.
All sorts of experiments should be based on that.
Είναι avant-garde, γιατί πολύ φοριέται αυτή η λέξη, πολύ κυκλοφορεί, θα έλεγα πως είναι η έκρηξη του πυρήνα του ακαδημαϊκού, του κλασικού. Αυτή είναι η avant-garde. Δεν υπάρχει avant-garde χωρίς την ιδέα της παράδοσης, του классику.
И если мы будем говорить об авангарде,
speaking about vanguard,
употребляют это слово, да, если вы меня
спросите, что это такое,
if you ask me what's that,
I'm going to tell you that vanguard is an explosion in the epicenter of a classical theatre. I mean, vanguard is nothing without classical tradition.
Οι νέοι σκηνοθέτες δεν εκπαιδεύονται αρκετά ή αποφεύγουν, ή αλλάξαν βέβαια πολλοί εποχές, αγνοούν μεγάλες σχολές της θεατρικής παράδοσης παντού σε όλο τον κόσμο.
И по всему миру, к сожалению, молодые режиссеры или в силу своей необразованности, или по каким-то другим причинам просто
due to lack of education or some other reason, quite often overlook theatre traditions.
Παίζεται ανάμεσα στη μνήμη και τη λύθη. Όταν μία παράσταση σέβεται την παράδοση και ανοίγει καινούριους ορίζοντες, διατηρεί μνήμη.
Когда спектакль с уважением относится к традиции, он как раз несет с собой память.
Traditions. It carries memory and develops this memory.
Αγνοεί την παράδοση τελείως και αποδίδει την τρέχουσα πραγματικότητα, μόνο την τρέχουσα πραγματικότητα, και ό,τι αυτή θυμάται από την παράδοση, τότε καλλιεργεί τη λύθη.
А вот когда он не обращает внимания на эту память или на традицию, эту традицию забывает и основывается только на современном опыте,
relying
вот тогда
only
такие
on
спектакли
contemporary experience, well, such performances
попадают.
Θα πω ένα παράδειγμα.
are
Βλέποντας,
turning
είδα 4
obsolete
φορές τη
very
μασκαράδα του Βαλέρη.
quickly.
4 раза я смотрел спектакль
4 times
«Маскарад» Валерия.
Βλέπω το θέατρο ενός αιώνα.
И я
Saw
здесь вижу
The Masquerade by Valery Fokin,
Με σύγχρονο
and I
πρόσωπο.
see
но с
a theater
современным лицом.
Αυτό εννοώ.
that is based on a centuries-long tradition, but it has got a contemporary face.
Καλλιεργείται πιο πολύ στα
And this is my
φεστιβάλ.
view of what
εποχιακά.
memory is.
Эфемерное, оно обычно рождается на фестивалях.
Ενώ η μεγάλη
this
τέχνη και
is
το σπουδαίο
what
θέατρο ριζώνει βαθιά
is
στην
normally
παράδοση. Έχει ρίζα, έδαφος.
things normally should be
Великий
done.
театр, он всегда основан
Prominent,
на
a
традиции.
great
Это
theater
корни.
is
И так
always
он
based on
привязывается
traditions.
к
It stems from
корням
traditions.
традиции.
Θα πω 2 πράγματα μόνο ακόμα. Επειδή είμαστε σε πανδημία και επειδή είμαστε πια στην εποχή των μικροβίων.
Я еще хотел бы сказать коротко о том,
Well,
что
again,
поскольку мы
I
переживаем
would like
вот
to briefly
этот период
underscore that,
пандемии,
considering
мы
that we
живем в
are
эпоху
living amid
микробов.
pandemic,
Χάινερ Μίλλερ,
we are living in the era of microbes.
Landscaped with Argonauts.
Хайнер Мюллер в пейзаже с аргонавтами говорит
Henry Miller,
Τι να το
in
κάνουμε,
the
προφητικό
episode
είναι
with
αυτό.
Argonauts,
И
says,
это во многом он как провидец выступил.
Ένα
a
κουρελάκι
very
Σέξπιρ
prophetic
στον παράδεισο, εγώ
phrase.
λέω κόλαση των μικροβίων.
Он говорит о тряпочке Шекспире
writes about
в
Shakespeare
мире, в раю, а я бы
in
сказала в
paradise,
аду
but I
микробов.
would say in the hell of microbes.
Что нам с этой тряпочкой делать в этом
So
аду?
what should we do about that in that hell?
Στην οικολογική καταστροφή.
Мне кажется, что национальные
I
театры
believe
очень
that
серьезно
national
должны
theatres
учитывать масштабы экологической
Must
катастрофы.
consider the scale of the catastrophe, the national catastrophe.
Όλοι οι άνθρωποι να γίνουμε μέρος του οικοσυστήματος, ενός οικοσυστήματος.
Мы все,
All of us,
артисты, творцы и люди,
creators,
должны
artists,
стать
just
частью
people,
экосистемы.
Για να ξαναβρεθεί
must
σχέση
become
του
part
ανθρώπου
of
με τη
that
φύση, του
ecosystem
καλλιτέχνη με τη φύση.
Для того, чтобы вновь найти
in order
связь
to
человека с природой и артиста с природой.
re-establish our connection with nature.
Να σεβαστούμε το Διόνυσο, ο οποίος είναι ο Θεός της άνοιξης, της βλάστησης, γεννιέται με την άνοιξη, τη βλάστηση και πεθαίνει όταν η φύση πεθαίνει.
И таким образом мы должны оказать должное уважение Дионису,
We would pay
Богу,
tribute
который связан
to
с природой, с
the
ее
Dionysius,
рассветом и
the
с
god
ее
of
увяданием.
nature, the god of dawn and the
Это
dusk
Бог
of
в первую
nature.
очередь перевоплощений,
This is
Και που ενώνει
the
τον
God
άνθρωπο με τη φύση.
of
который объединяет человека с природой.
recreation that brings man together with nature.
Είναι μεγάλο το θέμα και θα προτιμούσα εμείς οι σκηνοθέτες να λεγόμαστε εκοσόφερ.
Это большая тема, я хотел ее затронуть,
very
и хотел бы сказать,
deep
что
topic.
мы,
I just would like to tap it, to have some insight into it. And therefore I believe that directors, drama directors should be called eco-philosophers
Ξαναβρεθεί ένα μεγάλο κομμάτι
or
της τέχνης μας που είναι
philosophy
для того,
environmentalists
чтобы мы обратились
in
вновь
order to
к этой большой
get
теме
back to
природы.
this immense
Большое спасибо.
topic of nature. Thank you for attention. Thank you.
Спасибо большое, Теодорос.
Thank you,
Я думаю,
Theodoros.
что это одна из тех тем, которые сейчас ты затронул,
I think that
экологический саммит в Глазго.
the topic that you have tapped is still being explored because we are having the environmental summit in Glasgow, and I believe that we are going to have many more events in such a crisis-like format. Well, of course, painters find it easier to embrace the tradition than theater directors, because painters can envisage the tradition in its materialistic aspects. Well, and actually we can find icon paintings that gave rise to the future Russian vanguard. So tradition is a more challenging matter for theaters. Theater always used to be some sacral venue. It existed within a myth and was also part of this mythological mind, the mythological thinking. When I met Carlos Cunha in 1970s, I remember that the relation between classics and innovation were a very acute and challenging matter, and there is no clear boundary between them. Now I would like to give the floor to Sergey Emelyanov, who is the CEO of Alexandrinsky Theater. So probably he would catch up with the address of Mr. Fokin. Thank you very much, Mr. Shvydkoi, dear colleagues. I'm so happy to see all of you, regrettably, online only. But I believe that we would be able to see face-to-face the majority of our participants here within the framework of our festival. Well, speaking about the global challenges and the global tasks of a national theater, I should underscore that the very title, National Theater, imposes specific responsibilities and liabilities for what is happening both on the stage and beyond. And I can establish with confidence that today every particular national theater extends far beyond the national country borders. But let's look at our national theater, the National Theater of Russia, the Alexandrinsky Theater. Today, Alexandrinsky Theater has assumed a very difficult mission to consolidate and bring together the theater community of our country. We are supported by the National Association that is to be established at a large summit in Karelia. This is going to facilitate our further operations. National Theatre School is another project that we plan to embark on next year. We are going to implement this project across many regions of Russia, especially those that have their national regional theaters and that stage performances in local languages and in Russian language. I would like to refer to a few examples just to demonstrate how broad the activities of a national theater are. We plan to have the days of the National Theater of Russia and Serbia. This initiative was passionately supported by both Serbia and Russia, and the Ministry of Culture of the Russian Federation jumped into that process and facilitated us a lot. And you know that thanks to that support, we were able to expand the borders of this event. Therefore, this initiative includes both masterclasses and performances, but also lectures by the best theater professors of Russia. So those are going to come to Serbia and give lectures and masterclasses to younger students of Serbia. So therefore we see that a theater sometimes has to face tasks that are far beyond its responsibility. Thank you very much and welcome to St. Petersburg. You are much awaited. Well, thank you. Well, you are much awaited in St. Petersburg. Sounds like you are much awaited in Jerusalem next year. But thank you, Sergey, for such an optimistic tune. I would like to remind you that in Russia we are celebrating the 200 years anniversary of Dostoevsky, so every particular country has its own anniversaries and some days of memory. And today is, this year we are celebrating the 200 years anniversary of Fyodor Dostoevsky. Dostoevsky is indeed a fascinating writer because sometimes what he's writing is just tremendous. And when Dostoevsky was asked, if you find yourself presented in front of God, what would you say to excuse for your sins? He said, I would present the book by Cervantes, Don Quixote. We know that today is the commemoration day in France, in Great Britain, as well as in Serbia. It is also the commemoration day to commemorate the victims of the First World War. Therefore, today, we are quite often asking ourselves what our life is going to be like. How would we get back to normal once we find ourselves amid such difficult situation of working online? I would like now to give the floor to Martin Kushey and then Tamara, Vuckovic, Manoilovic. I'm very happy to see you. Well, much to my regret, I know the Polish theater of the last century much better because once again, in the past, I watched a performance in 1967 that was, after that, all the heads, all the administrators and leaders of the theater were dismissed because it was against the Soviet Union. It did not conform with the Soviet paradigm. I was friends with Konstanta Puzina and the Dialogue magazine. If you remember such a magazine, it was a very important magazine for European theater movement. And I also remember the head of the Polish TV theater and head of the theater in Krakow. Well, I'm not going to tap the past, to plunge into the past. Please, the floor is yours.
Okay, hello everybody. Hello Michail, I hope you are going to be in Vienna soon and see the Burgtheater. Hello to all of my colleagues in Russia and all over Europe. Let me first say that I really appreciate the words of Theodoros Tersopoulos about ecologic and climate issues. This is truly a challenge for all of us in the near future. So I would like to talk about two questions of the roundtable topics today. What does it mean to be a national theater, and how to build a dialogue between national theaters in an intercultural theatrical space? I must confess that I have a different opinion about nation and national theater. Here we have to talk about a special peculiarity in the concept of nation in Austria. First, this term is historically very loaded in a German-speaking Europe. Secondly, the Austrian Second Republic had established a national consciousness with much effort after 1955, which nevertheless always remained questionable and unstable. Other nations do not have these problems at all. Nevertheless, the Burgtheater was always proudly called the German or Austrian National Theater. I wanted to deal artistically with this concept and Austria's much more than just German-speaking history. It's, of course, a country which had in its history a multilingual monarchy, and therefore I have this very good friendship with my colleagues from ex-Yugoslavia, for example, but also to people from Hungary and Czech and Slovakia. Well, when my artistic direction in Vienna began 2 years ago, we had the idealistic idea of a great multilingual, truly European Burgtheater. We had abolished the term national theater without further ado and elevated Vienna to the capital of Europe, theater capital of Europe. Theater people from as many countries as possible were to work here, and the repertoire ranged in a northwest, southeast diagonal across Europe from Iceland to Israel. After a very successful beginning in 2019, with people from all over Europe working here and also having many different languages on our stages, things suddenly came to a complete standstill. COVID-19 spread like a leaden blanket over the people, the cities, the society, and finally over the entire continent. All borders were closed, travel was prevented, movement in general was made almost impossible. For the theater, this was devastating. Actors and actresses, artists, entire teams of directors remained locked up for months, had to hold out in their countries and wait. And of course, playing theater in front of an audience came to an end. Our profession could only be practiced in small sealed cells, and life had become almost impossible in one giant boundary and restriction of plexiglass, masks, walls, and controls. We had to learn, especially in times of pandemic, the assertion of a cross-border theater work is limited and must be asserted all the more. Narrow-minded, pragmatic nationalism was politically the answer. Theater and art must stand up against it. And now to the question how to build a dialogue between national theaters in an intercultural theatrical space. Art and theater is always collective. Art on its own does not work. Crossing borders is a basic prerequisite. It's a prerequisite for every art and for every culture. On closer examination, there are, of course, many more borders and border areas in question than just the geographical or national ones just mentioned. There are many psychological and physical borders involved, which have to be crossed at high speed. This often happens in the unconscious, just as linguistic, civilizational, or cultural differences have to be overcome. Or the different areas of education and information which shape the experience and understanding of art in a very individual way for each one of us. But everyone has to overcome something for it, to enter unknown territory, to cross borders, to get to know new nations, other nations. Of course, I do respect and love other cultures, their history and their conditions, their regions and their diversity. But I'm absolutely convinced that in the 21st century, and as a modern citizens of the world, we should have a different approach to the concept of nation. Unfortunately, history is developing in a completely different, backward direction. All the more, we artists and theater working people, representatives of art institutions, must try to overcome this thinking. And let me finally please mention that we are having a concrete plan to have an international exchange in culture and especially theater between our countries of Austria and Russia. And that means, just to mention it, that we are going to have an exchange with our productions between St. Petersburg and Vienna in the future. I think it is going to happen in the year 2022. I'm really looking forward to that, and thank you to everybody to listening to me.
Спасибо большое, Мартин. Я приношу свои...
Thank you so much, Martin.
Потому что, видимо, уже старость ко мне подкралась.
I'm so sorry.
Я помню замечательную книжку, которая вас...
I remember that marvelous book that you used to publish.
Баварского образца. Я вам напрасно все рассказывал про свои польские переживания, потому что
I was actually
немножко сбился
in vain talking about my experience of Polish theater, indeed in vain. I got just a bit lost. I'm really sorry.
И поэтому ваш опыт, безусловно,
your experience
совместной работы будет в высшей степени важен.
Collaboration would be highly valuable. I'm really sorry.
Странный польский наезд.
For this, indeed, strange reminiscence.
Руководит сербским театром, это я точно знаю.
Well, Madam Vuckovic Manoilovic is the director of the Serbian theater. I know for sure. Please, the floor is yours, Madam.
Thank you. I would like, of course, to express my gratitude to be here. And I'm very sorry that we could not be at this moment in St. Petersburg, but I'm sure that we will be very soon. And we could see each other, whether in Belgrade, whether in St. Petersburg. I would like to greet Mr. Shvydkoi, Mr. Fokin, of course, especially, and Mr. Sergey Emelyanov, well, of course, all of you. In the beginning, I would like to say that the Yugoslav Drama Theater was founded with the idea to gather the best artists and the best people from all around ex-Yugoslavia. So it became like a national theater. And the name of Yugoslav Drama Theater is still remained. Although we have some comments on that, why don't we change it? We are proud of it. But that posed the question of what is it really a national theater today? Yugoslav Drama Theater is the city theater, but significance of our theater is the biggest in the, let's say, not only in Serbia, but in the region. Even after the Yugoslavia fell apart, still Yugoslav Drama Theater tried to do its best to gather the best artists in the region. It's not very easy, of course, because of the financial situation, which is changing, of course, but it is still difficult. From the very beginning, Yugoslav Drama Theater had and started with international cooperation for decades now, mostly, of course, with the guest performances, but also with co-productions, very important co-production we had in our history. I would like to mention the co-production we just had with National Theatre from Maribor, with Burg Theatre, and Yugoslav Drama Theatre. We just had the premiere 1 month ago in Maribor, and then we had it 1 week ago in Belgrade. You know how it's difficult now in the situation of COVID to have this kind of event and this kind of performances, and we are very glad that we had it, and I hope that we'll have the premiere in Ljubljana and then in Vienna in the very beginning of the 22nd. Like Mr. Fokin said, our responsibility, like state theater, national theater, are really huge, and I think that it's very important to find a way through the to young people, and it's quite difficult. Even this COVID situation, of course, complicated it more. But through this situation of COVID, and last year we managed to have also the cooperation with Italia Theatre from Hamburg on the UNART project, which is the project for young generation. Also, we are part of Union Theatres of Europe from 2006. And like many of you know, we have some projects, but I noticed one paradox, because we had some conferences normally in last years, we had some conferences 2 times per year. So we saw each other for 1 day maybe, and we didn't have more time. And it's a paradox that through this COVID situation, we had more contacts and we have even more projects idea. And now we are in one project called Catastrophe. And in 2022, we will have a co-production with National Theatre from Barcelona. So I wanted to say that we, through these online conferences, had more contacts than we had before, which is maybe good. And to say something for Mr. Tersopoulos said that avant-garde does not exist without classical theater. Of course, I think also, and I want to tell you that the last 10 years I've been here on this position, I noticed that people are coming more and more for classical theater. Of course, with some contemporary approach, which is of course needed. But then we thought what they are looking for. They're not looking for avant-garde. They're looking for they're coming to see the truth, beauty, and trying to find some answers maybe. I don't know, but that's what we really noticed, and it is very important. Of course, at the end, I would like to say that I'm very happy that Alexandrinsky Theatre and Yugoslav Drama Theatre signed 1 month ago memorandum for cooperation, and I'm very glad and happy that we could exchange our performances and our artists, and hope to see you very, very soon in Belgrade, and hope in St Petersburg. Hello to everybody again. Thanks.
Спасибо вам большое, Тамара. Спасибо.
So much, Tamara.
Я уже теперь после ошибки, которую я допустил с Мартином,
well, after my mistake with Martin, I'd better not go into detailed reminiscence But anyway, Belgrade has always been the epicenter of co-productions, even during the Cold War. It was the Belgrade Drama Theater that initiated the BIT Theater Festival. Manoilovic, Mr. Kirillov did a lot to bring the West and the East together. And that's highly crucial. That was a pivotal initiative. And I'm still recollecting the art of Serbian performers. Alexander Popovsky, please. The floor is yours now, Mr. Popovsky.
Hello, everybody. It's really a pleasure to be with all of you. Like my colleague says before, unfortunately we are not together in the same room, but everybody knows the whole story, so I don't want to repeat all these things. I hope that really one day we will sit together and talk face to face. So my experience with I must say, I'm coming like an artistic director of the National Theatre in Slovenia, but actually it's a quite new job for me because I'm doing that job last 3 years. Before that, all my experience about national theaters is coming from my traveling and directing to the different theaters everywhere, national theaters especially. So I'm talking about experience like from Istanbul, Greece, Macedonia, Serbia, Croatia, Slovenia, Hungary. So I've met a lot of national theaters actually in different countries. And it was very interesting because I've met them after big changes in a whole Europe. So after 90s, let's say. And it was very interesting to watch the roles and the situation of the national theaters in different countries in this period, 90s and the new century. And of course, I agree with the people, with all of you, when you're talking about that national theater shouldn't be museum. That shouldn't be just a keeper of some old stories. It must be live and must be open. But the things that I've seen, and I think it's very important, base of everything when I've come in a different country in the national theater was a language. You know, the people are talking about language. Like that house is a keeper of the language. Or I can say for me, voice that is coming from that stage. And in these days, of course, if we want to learn something, if we want to develop ourselves, we need different voices. If we all the time hear the same voice, you know, we will start to sleep. If we hear different voices, different opinions, and that's for sure, it's going to be something that we can learn. And according to my experience, I have a lot of voices from different countries, and they make me feel that I'm a rich person, you know. So that's the way how I see, that's the way how I'm trying to develop the things in Slovenian National Theatre, especially because actually I'm not from Slovenia, I'm from other country, I'm from Macedonia, I have Croatian passport and I'm working in Slovenia. So for me, let's say it's natural like that. And this last experience that we have between Yugoslavian National Yugoslavian Dramsky Theatre in Belgrade and Burg Theatre in Vienna was actually very good experience because, for example, in Maribor, before 100 years, the people were celebrating because they stopped to hear German language on the stage. After 100 years, we have now beautiful experience when we hear German language on the stage, and the actor who comes from Burgtheater, he get standing ovation. So, and I also must say that because we mixed all the languages on the stage, like Serbian, Slovenian, German, and also actors on the stage, that's really something special. You know, that's chemistry that happened between all these people. Is amazing because it's some kind of new value that the audience can get. So I don't know how it will take, but for sure I will do whatever is possible to continue with the co-production, to continue with the exchanging of voices. So thank you very much.
Спасибо вам большое. Хвала лепа.
Thank you so much.
Я напомню просто,
May I just remind that the prominent Slovene classical writer Preshen wrote both in German, excellent writing, and in Slovenian language. So he was bilingual. And this bilingualism is coming back. Slovene culture is at the crossroads of Italian, Austrian, and Slavic culture, being part of the Slavic world. Therefore, this makes it indeed unique, and our cooperation with the Bok Theatre is highly valuable to us. I believe that our colleagues from France are waiting for the opportunity to take the floor. And I'm also anticipating them to come to the forefront. Stefan Braunschweig is very well known in Russia. His performances were staged in Moscow and in Paris. And, well, who's going to be the first? Either Mr. Braunschweig or Muriel Marriott. Muriel, ladies first. So let it be you.
S'il vous plaît, Muriel. Какие-то проблемы с...
Having problems?
Muriel, прошу вас.
Muriel. Muriel, please.
Oui, bonjour à tous. C'est moi qui commence. D'abord, je vous remercie de nous inviter à
Hello, everyone.
à cette conversation.
Thank you very much for the invitation to this discussion.
Je ne dirige
Being
plus aujourd'hui un
silent
théâtre national.
for
J'ai dirigé pendant 8
a
ans la
year
Comédie Française.
was
Néanmoins, je dirige aujourd'hui le
such
Théâtre
a
national de
torture.
Nice. Et les enjeux sont les mêmes.
Today, I'm not head of a national theatre. I used to be head of Comédie Française, but still, I believe that we are having the same challenges.
Parce que, évidemment, l'effort que
we are surviving through the same situations.
avec un pass sanitaire, avec des masques, n'est pas si simple.
And the audience must develop extra muscles, so to say, to come to the theatre, because there are so many obstacles. You have to put on masks, you need some codes, but the most important is not to give up. This is challenge one that we are all facing, I believe. And the other challenge is that we must be active.
de Jean de La Fontaine, parce que cette pandémie, elle est nouvelle pour nous, mais elle n'est pas nouvelle pour notre planète.
I suggest
alors qu'en France, nous allons bientôt avoir à faire face à de nouvelles élections présidentielles.
by La
Il me semble
Fontaine,
que c'est
the
fondamental
plague.
de redonner
And
entendre
in France, we are having yet another challenge, which is the forthcoming presidential
une
elections.
pièce de Pirandello qui s'appelle Comme tu me veux, sur le débat sur l'identité. C'est absolument génial et fondamental. Et je crois que
believe that we
le fait
should
de pouvoir
do the
inventer
best
des
to
coproductions, comme le disait Tamara, de pouvoir
recollect
continuer
the greatest
à avoir l'ambition de
texts
faire des
and
tournées
literary
qui sont très
pieces
compliquées
of
auparavant,
fiction.
nous
Stefan
permettra justement
Zweig
de reprendre une part fondamentale dans les grands débats
making
de nos sociétés,
fantastic
les débats
performances.
politiques.
We are
Et Dieu sait
preparing
que dans tous
new
les pays que nous représentons,
theatre
nous
company
manquons
tours,
aujourd'hui de
but
grands
this
orateurs.
is
Et
going
le
to
théâtre, dans sa puissance
give us an opportunity
orale
to
et dans son
embrace
archaïsme
the
d'ailleurs, parce que
international
ça reste une
discourse
discipline
and to become part of
archaïque
the
d'un être
global
humain qui fait quelque chose
discussions.
devant un autre être humain.
Today,
Et
we
par
are
cette
lacking
dimension réelle d'un présent partagé, la parole est d'autant plus facile à recevoir.
great people, great personalities. Therefore, it is important to share the value of language, to convey
je ferai une différence entre la
emotions.
forme et le fond. Je ne crois pas
Therefore,
qu'un théâtre, aussi national soit-il,
do take the
est une
challenge.
tradition à respecter.
Do
Il
dare.
doit simplement passer les grands textes
Do not
qui ont toujours du sens.
negotiate
Et
all
il le
kinds
fait
of
dans le
contradictions
Donc,
of
il le
the
fait comme tous les
shape,
enfants, avec les
the
jeux qui sont à sa
content,
disposition.
the
Donc,
visual
je ne me
image.
concentrerai pas sur une tradition
A theater
qui
is more
fondamentalement
than
m'échappe.
just
En revanche,
translation.
continuer à les porter,
I'm not
ces
going
textes, nous
to
en avons besoin plus que jamais.
focus on
Et c'est pourquoi
traditions now because
je crois
this is
que
not
se mettre
my
ensemble
strongest
est
aspect,
la plus belle
but we
réponse
must
qu'on puisse
convey the
faire,
emotion
aux défis de
to
nos
the
différents
public.
pays, pour se remettre
We
au cœur
must
du débat
stand
nécessaire
together
que notre
and
planète
step up
traverse. Voilà, je vous
to the
remercie.
challenges. We must be in the epicenter of the great debate and the tremendous
Спасибо
challenges
большое,
that
Мариэл,
our planet is surviving
замечательная
through.
пламенная речь,
Thank you, Mariel, for such a
всех нас,
passionate
конечно,
speech
вдохновит, и я думаю,
that
что мы
inspired
попробуем.
all of us.
Мне об этом трудно, мне это комментировать трудно,
It's
потому
very
что
difficult for me
я
to
руковожу
comment upon your
театром
words
мюзикла, поэтому
because
свободно от основной
I
работы
lead a
время. Но я разделяю все ваши
musical
позиции и
house,
взгляды.
but
Стефан,
I
прошу.
share all your views. Stefan, please, the floor is yours.
Bonjour, je suis très heureux de participer avec vous tous à cette table ronde.
Hello, I'm happy to participate at this round table. Yesterday I was at the first night of Eugene Onegin, so therefore I'm kind of into Russian culture today. From the first days of my work as a director, I have been submerged into the ocean of Russian culture. When I hear the language, the narrative of national identity, well, I recollect me being the director or the head of 3 national theaters, and I remember that each of those theaters were a national theater. I was the director of the National Theater in Strasbourg, and a national theater in Alsace, which is at the border region with Germany, not in Paris. that theater was established after these provinces were returned back to France by Germany, and these theaters were housed in the former building of the German Parliament. So those are historical venues indeed. Then I was head of the National Odeon Theatre. This is its former name, and now it is called the Odeon Theatre of Europe. And there is a lot behind this change of names. In 1782, Louis XVI went on renaming the theater. It was either the Arena Theater or the Theater of Revolution. And so this theater has survived through lots of historical turmoils. And actually the Odeon Theater was part of Comédie Française later on, and after that, in 1984, the Minister of Culture and George Strehler decided to establish the season of the Theatre of Europe. Initially, it was only part of the season, looking into the European agenda, but in 1990, Odeon became a full-fledged Theatre of Europe. I believe that it is not by chance that Strehler established this theatre in France, because there were trends that pushed them towards this decision. There was the Nation Theatre Festival, the Nancy Festival, meaning that France has got a very long-standing tradition of hospitality and welcoming foreign theatres and national theatres. And therefore, this is highly crucial and critical for us. I mean, these close relations with the entire system. Setting Comédie Française aside, we do not have a theatre with a full-time theatre company. Therefore, it is easier for us to accommodate and welcome foreign theatres than in other theatres in Europe, because we do not have a company of our own as opposite to Eastern Europe theatres.
Ce théâtre de l'Europe, il a été fondé par Strehler dans l'idée d'accueillir les grands artistes européens de son
this
époque.
actually makes it more difficult to welcome and accommodate some foreign theatre companies for a short period of time. I watched
de metteur en scène. Et c'était donc une idée d'un théâtre qui était vraiment ouvert,
of performances that have actually shaped my mind and my imagination. Therefore, I'm open to the very idea of the Theatre of Europe, the Europe of spiritual unity.
Alors aujourd'hui, évidemment, on est dans une Europe
euphoric,
optimistic de repli identitaire au niveau politique et culturel. Et je crois que si nous avons une responsabilité nationaux,
in terms of its culture, its identity and politics.
La prolongation de ce que disait tout à l'heure, on doit être un théâtre qui
as for theatre management, I would provide a follow-up to what Mr. Couchet said. I believe that we should be striving to be open, be transparent, and fight for our nationalism and our national values. And this would allow us to assume some most acute challenges, including environmental protection, gender issues, ethnic diversity, and diversity. On the whole, we can consider these issues jointly within the European space. Quite often, I also participate in opera house performances. If you stage Mario Molière or other national plays, or if I go to Moscow, I would stage Chekhov. If I go to Oslo, I would choose Ibsen, or if be it Italy, I would choose Pirandello. Why? Because thus the national theatre is enriched by different worldviews, and I will recognize and learn more if I work on the local grounds. If we bring only our cultural luggage, our cultural background, well, we do provide, we do give something away, but we don't get anything in return. I believe that all I have been doing over the last year is full of different traditional, cross-traditional, cross-cultural contacts. Therefore, I understand my mission as not a mission of a representative of culture, but a mission of a representative of some supernatural culture, which is above the national culture. I would like to speed up the cultural and the cross-cultural dialogue between performers and artists, because there must be no borders. Thank you so much. I'm confident that culture and borders are incompatible. When today we hear that we must observe social distance because of the pandemic, well, there is no social distance in culture, because culture makes it all, it overcomes it. Well, this is what the history stands. As you know, Russian Federation brings together roughly 200 languages. 100 of those are literary languages. Languages that have their own literature. Of course, Russian Federation is a space where every particular ethnicity is independent and knows their national and ethnic belonging. Thus, theatres are both about national identity and national positioning in the world. And this is something that is being blurred by globalization, because there is no national code in a globalized world. Now I would like to give the floor to two fascinating heads and directors of theaters, Ferid Bekchentaev, who is head of the Kamala Theatre, and Andrei Borisov, who used to be the Minister of Culture of the Republic of Buryatia. You are not the Minister of Culture. Yeah, I'm really happy with you, because I know it's such a hard job to be the Minister of Culture. Hello, dear colleagues. So the topic that I'm going to tap today is national identity and cultural dialogue. This topic is very close to us, national theaters. Mr. Shvydkoi said that there was a book published in Russia under the title The Multi-Language Theater of Russia, and there was no chapter on the Russian theater. And I'm always asking myself whether Russian theater is a national theater. And once in 2019, the Alexandrinsky theater was granted the title of a national theater, then did I realize that now Russia does have its national theater. Therefore, to me, as a director, it is very important to have a national theater. Let's look at the Mali theater, the smaller theater. Once, when I said that, well, Sakha Theater, the theater of the Republic of Sakha, is not a national theater because Sakha Theater was just an educational project. We were copying, we were not making anything of our own. And then I decided to establish the Alan Hope Theater, which is indeed a classical national theater. When we started to tour Europe, Paris, Greece, India, we were welcomed as a national theater.
Очень такой сейчас сильно будет глубоко разворачиваться. Однажды я на одном из фестивалей, по-моему,
at one of the festivals in Tatarstan, I met my colleague and told him that, well, the theater of Tatarstan is a national theater. And he said, well, yes, of course, because we are talking the language of our people and we are performing the drama, our national drama. And then I mentioned, well, there is the language of the people and there is the language of the theater, and those are two different things apart. I should highlight that today the theater language is transforming. Our Alan Hope Theater is undergoing these transformations as well. Much like Mr. Fokin is pursuing an initiative to set up the National Theatre Lab that could be just an incubator of national theaters in Russia, and therefore I fully support this initiative. I'm ready to jump in as a representative of our national Alan Hope Theater or the Sakha Theater. Thank you. Thank you, Andrei. I'm so happy to see you. You have done a tremendous job to promote national culture of Yakutia, because today the cinema industry in Yakutia and the way movies produced in Yakutia are presented at cinema festivals is thanks to your efforts only. Well, Mr. Vikchintayev, I should say that Kazan and Tatarstan for Russia is indeed a crucial region, and the Kamala Tatarstan academic theater has always been the heart of that region, and today your theater is undergoing through a very exciting time indeed. Yes, Right. Hello. Do you hear me? Yes, we do hear you. We can see you. Oh, great. Mr. Shvydkoi, hello. I'm so happy to see you. I have never had a chance to meet you face to face. Well, rather, I used to meet Mr. Selimzhanov more often. Well, I was minister even before Mr. Selimzhanov. All right. Thank you, Mr. Shvydkoi, for inviting me to this round table, and I welcome everyone who I know, who I do not know yet. Well, Russia is a multinational country, which is actually an exciting country. For many other parts of the world, well, some time ago, we actually were able to re-establish the initiative of having the Nowruz festival. After the demise of the Soviet Union, there was a very challenging issue of where to hold this festival. Therefore, we decided to have this festival in Tatarstan, in the city of Kazan. That was the decision of Mr. Selimzhanov and myself. Therefore, once a year, masters from Europe, Latin America, China, directors, actors come to us. Therefore, what we're talking about today is directly related to the culture of Tatarstan, because the Nowruz festival has united lots of performers, directors, over the past time, and considering the huge amount of applications received, 700, I'm hinted, we decided to host this seminar in an online format. Among the participants, there were those representing different cultures of Russia and neighboring foreign countries. Hungarian theater is our most dearest partners. I do not see representatives of the Hungarian theater today, but I also would like to mention that we used to stage performances by a Chinese director, by a Colombian director. My colleagues from France has tapped a very crucial issue, and I totally agree. For example, we invited director Khadyrova, and when we asked him, what would you like to stage? I told him, well, you can stage whatever you want to. So he came to Kazan, and for 1 year he stayed in Kazan studying the theater of Tatarstan, and he decided to stage a play by a contemporary Tatar drama writer. So he concluded that it is more exciting to choose national drama fiction, to turn those into performers and put them on stage. So I would like to join in what Mr. Tersopoulos said, namely, any experiment must be built on a tradition, because national theaters of Russia are undergoing through very difficult times now. Therefore, it is really difficult to preserve the tradition as well as uphold our views and values as those used to be before the pandemic. I would like to extend my gratitude to Mr. Fokin, to the Association of National Theatres. I believe together we would be able to overcome all the challenges. Thank you so much, Ferit. I hope that next time we are going to have representatives of Hungary together with us as well. Yes, indeed, there are lots of nationalities, and there is such a problem of multinationalism as opposite to mononationalism. Every time we are talking about establishing a national theater, this must position itself as something unique. And therefore, the presence of Mr. Campbell can't be more valuable. So, Mr. Campbell, I believe that it is the right time to pass the floor over to you.
Many thanks, and thank you to all of the panelists for your fascinating contributions and observations today. As you may know, National Theatre Wales is something of a different model of a national theatre. We're a very young national theatre, only 10 years old, and critically, we do not have a building or a standing ensemble. We make our work through a wide range of dramaturgies and within a wide range of contexts, being those in co-created processes with communities, in large-scale outdoor events, as well as more traditional productions within theatre buildings, either in festival context, single productions, or in touring. Part of the opportunity and the challenge that this offers us as a national theatre is a constant reinvention of our model in a deep dialogue with audience and community and artist. And I think in the most exciting way, this exposes the fundamental challenge of a contemporary national theatre, of how are we in dialogue not only with the questions of tradition, as have been touched on today, but with a highly fluid present, and massively engaged with the complex text of the creation and the imagination of a future. In the question of national identity, within the United Kingdom and within Wales, we're in a really challenging and fluid and complex moment where we think about the nature of the parts of our union in conversation with each other, and also in the conversation with the rest of Europe. And the rest of the world. I particularly appreciate what Martin said about the dangers of nationalism and the danger of that word, and how we can engage in a constructive conversation around a fluid and evolving identity that doesn't put us into either reductive or isolationist points, or begins to, espouse any of the specters of a nationalist conversation that can lead to division and to antagonism. As a theatre, we're really interested in how we're evolving the ways in which we make work in relation to a set of aesthetics. Those are the aesthetics of access, about how do we bring voices and modes for different types of audience, different types of artists with disability, with specific needs, with questions of language, into the fundamental aesthetic of our work, so that we're bringing that question of accessibility into the heart of everything that we do. We're deeply engaged in the aesthetics of sustainability, and how the creation of our work and the conversation of our work in every element, not only the invisible parts of production, but within the conversation with artists, within the framing of process, is dealing with a zero carbon reality, or indeed a carbon positive reality, and what that means for balancing how work is created and presented, but also attempting to extend the reach and the impact of work in the ways that we make it. And all of this brings us to a central unifying aesthetic within our work, which is about the aesthetic of change, and the sense that our wider society, our international partners, our audiences, our communities, our artists are all living through a sustained period of change that only accelerates, that only becomes more complex, more intersectional, more fractalized in every part of its experience. So we're asking ourselves really clearly and strongly, how do we use cultural practice to allow our audiences and our artists to engage in the processes of change, in the provocations of change, in being able to enter into reflective and empathetic spaces which are building new bridges, new contacts, new understandings in every place. One of the great and foundational pieces of work that underpins the understanding of what Welsh theatre is and can be is the book Culture is Ordinary by the great Raymond Williams, in which he explores and posits this idea that culture is a whole way of life, and that the separation between a professionalized cultural body and the cultural life of an ordinary citizen is a fundamental problem within how we create, how we receive, how we communicate. And that this conversation sits really rich, in a really rich and deep space within our tradition. And as we look out and as we engage in international conversations, increasingly we're finding that this is a conversation that partners globally are now engaging in going, what is the space in which the audience not only can engage in the remarkable skill of talented, sophisticated artists, but also in the conversation about how the creation, how the aesthetic, how the presentation of work is at the same time fundamentally part of their communities, their lives. In previous roles that I've been privileged to occupy as a director and as a leader of organizations, I've always worked within a fixed architecture, within the architecture of a building. For the first time, and I've only been in this post for 18 months, so my tenure very much began with the pandemic, so it has been a very strange experience of coming to know an organization, coming to know methods and productions of work during this period of hiatus, or in a space when you've only been able to grab small moments to be able to meet audiences, or have been attempting to make work within digital spaces. The conversation of restart and of building back in new and complex and different ways then becomes sort of a recursive conversation that flows back into the organization. Again, coming back to this central question of the aesthetic of change. It's been fascinating hearing the different perspectives this morning of the things that we are all wrestling with, and the fluidity of the moment and the fluidity of possibility that seems to sit underneath all of us. So I'm deeply grateful to be invited here today and to be able to be part of this conversation. Thank you.
Спасибо вам большое.
Mr. Campbell. So our list of speakers is exhausted. I'm not going to make any concluding remarks so far, because we are yet to anticipate Valery Fokin's and Sergey Emelyanov's speeches. And as for the national paradigm in theaters, I absolutely agree with what Mr. Kushi said. National does not mean it is limited to the national space only. National is not equal to nationalistic, because we are surviving through in our common times, and those times are not easy in all kinds of respects. The theater, however, is a great healer that heals your spirit, it heals your mind and soul. I would like to recollect the words by Musil, the great Austrian writer, when he was asked, so what's left after art? He said, it is us, but we are transformed. It is us transformed, being left after art, because it is art that transforms humans. Martin, once again, I'm so sorry. That's probably because I'm my senior age. So I would like to take my farewell with you. And now I'm just speaking as an official person, as a representative of the Russian president for culture. So Russia's position is open. We are open, we are transparent, we are ready to facilitate all the collaborations and cooperations within national and non-national theater frameworks at the top official, at the governmental level, so that to make life easier, because theater does heal. Once again, I'm sorry for leaving this high-level dialogue. So, thank you, Mr. Shvydkoi. Well, we can now proceed to the Q&A session. Okay, let me finalize, let me wrap up the round table. Mr. Fokin, yes, please. All right. I would like to extend my gratitude to all the speakers. It was a highly valuable dialogue and conversation. Well, to me personally, it was valuable. I hope that it was valuable to you as well. Why do I personally find it so valuable? Well, first, we were able to exchange opinions, compare our agendas, because today we are surviving through very difficult times. Therefore, we have to compare notes on where are we going, what do we do next. It is especially important for us as a National Theatre of Russia for the following reason. Because apart from establishing the Association of National Theatres of Russia, we are also building a venue in Moscow that is supposed to be just a home for national theatres of Russia. First and foremost, this building would be designated for meetings with international theatres, European theatres first and foremost, global theatres. We want this building to be the home of theater that would unite different countries, different theater languages, narratives. I believe that, well, in the years to come, we would be able to finalize this construction project. So, but we must just start now. We must be open now. There should be different voices heard. We can't be just locked in our own space. It is through cooperation and collaboration that we would be able to enrich one another.
В какой-то степени поразил, потому что он был чрезвычайно интересен. И их совместная работа, скажем, с европейским театром каким-то, я представляю, как совершенно новый поиск,
all kinds of joint projects
это новые движения. Нам надо быть вместе, нам надо вместе, несмотря ни на что,
So we must stick together, we must be close, we must be bonded and open and collaborate, because collaboration is crucial. It is crucial for St. Petersburg, it is crucial for every city and country. Considering that today we are celebrating the 20 years birthday anniversary of Fyodor Dostoevsky, who always called upon us to change for the better,
Я думаю, что в этом одно из назначений театра, потому что при всех обстоятельствах, когда мы собираемся в зрительном зале, мы видим людей, которые
missions of the theater is to drive people towards enlightenment. Because theater is what brings together people of opposing positions. And it is the theater that can unite all those differences within one umbrella emotion for the 2 hours while the performance is on stage. I'm a positive person, so I hope for the better. So let's work together, let's move together, stay safe and sound. Thank you. Now we open the Q&A session. Radio Russia, Elena Serova. The question is to all the discussion participants and Mr. Fokin. National identity means multiplying the cultural heritage. Don't you think that to be able to preserve the cultural heritage, including national costumes, is highly challenging in such a huge country as Russia, and a lot less challenging in smaller countries? Yes, this is something that we must preserve and cherish. But I think that how that happens, this is the question to be taken by our colleagues, Mr. Vikchentaev and Mr. Borisov.
Кто из вас первый? Скажите пару слов на эту тему.
Андрей Савич.
Well, Andrei, sorry, I did not hear the question.
Я не прослушал.
Mr. Vikchentaev. No, I did not miss the question.
Костюмы и песни, это все хорошо, конечно.
Well, costumes, national songs, national dresses. But without, those are good things, but without some modernization, without some rethinking, theaters are going to turn into museums, and that's the most dreary thing they could do. Preserving something does not mean that we
Я думаю, даже ритуал у Андрея Савича, он все равно приобретает сегодня какие-то современные звучания.
I believe that even with Mr. Borisov and the Theater of Yakutsk, even rituals there have some modern interpretation. Is that right? Well, it is important what we understand behind traditions. A tradition is something a lot broader than a museum. And a theater is... Theaters outperform museums in being modern and contemporary. The true tradition is so advanced that there is yet a lot to explore. Let's look at the Beijing opera, the Kabuki theater, Kupikam in India. Let's look at its aesthetics and poetics. It is so much advanced, it's so much contemporary. Although possibly these theaters are not that much popular even in their home countries. But today, Russian theater is so much impacted by the European tradition, so that it has even incorporated it. It is in its DNA. Well, anyone else wishing to reply? Probably some of our international colleagues would like to add anything.
По-моему, нет никто.
None. I see no one wishing to take the floor. Now let's move over to the next question. This is the question from our Vuckovic group. The question is to Mr. Fokin and Emelyanov. What are the next steps to be taken to establish the association, and what are your plans? Thank you for
учредительный съезд, который состоится 11 января в Петрозаводске. К слову сказать, мы впервые сейчас об этом объявляем. Утром сегодня поступает каждый день десятки писем из субъектов нашей страны, которые
dozens of letters from the constituents of the Russian Federation that confirm their participation in this summit on January 11 in Petrozavodsk in Karelia. This is going to be a charter meeting. And then at our interim event in Kazan, the city of Kazan in Tatarstan, we are going to identify our timeline for 2022. However, even today we have started planning and organizing our summer school for producers and theater engineers and technical staff. So theaters should not stay idle, they should move on. Next question. The round table is held under the aegis of the Alexandrinsky festival. What the festival in 2022 is going to be like? Do you have some vision regarding the agenda? Well, this festival is a festival of national theaters. So our moderator performed a lecture on the Polish theater, and at that time I recollected all my colleagues in Poland, because this is the Moldova theater, and we were partners with that theater for very long, and I believe that this is how things will be like in the future.
Значит, как складывается фестиваль 22 года? Значит, во-первых, мы приглашаем и получили уже согласие, мы хотим показать вот эту вот прекрасную коп-продукцию трех театров, которые говорили, коллеги, Бургтеатр, театр драматический Югославии и
Yugoslav drama theater and the Slovene drama theater. So we are going to include the co-productions. On top of that, we are welcoming the National Theatre of Bulgaria, the theatre by Ivan Vlasova. We are anticipating their first night, and they're going to start with a first night. One of the first nights is called Son and Father. This is the performance about Alexander II and Alexander III. It's a very important first night. The other name of this first night is 1882-81. We are also anticipating to welcome the Kamala Theatre. So this is some very proximate understanding of the future program. We are also going to welcome the Pskov theater. Anyway, the agenda is going to be super exciting. And the final question, Marina Alexeyeva, St Petersburg Diary. Well, you already mentioned that you want to establish the National Center in Moscow. So, how are you moving on? Well, the project is over. We have the draft design of the building, and it has consumed a lot of time, actually. And this building has very exciting, very unusual design, incorporating all the cutting-edge technologies and stage engineering.
Дело в том, что культурные объекты прекрасно знают, как корреспондент.
So far, the deadline is 2024. What's the name of the journalist? Marina. Well, Marina should know that the situation in Russia is quite difficult. It's quite complicated. So this project is to be implemented, so it is pending financial support, but it all depends on the financial support. I cannot boast that everything is fine with us, but we are going to push this project, and I hope that it will come true. Thank you so much. The list of questions from mass media is exhausted. I would like to extend my gratitude for your contribution, and I believe that it was an exciting discussion. Thank you, everyone, for your efforts. Goodbye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Спасибо.
Goodbye.
Thank you very much. See you soon.
Bye. Au revoir, Stéphane.
Salut, Marianne.
Addio.